Why we're here. And like a lot of you, I watched that downhill train wreck that calls itself a health care bill that came out of Washington yesterday. And like many of you, I wasn't shocked and I wasn't disappointed, I was pissed. But timing is everything. And I believe that we were brought here today to give a full-throated rejection to that nonsense that came out of the Republican Party. Because we are not the ladies who lunch, we are the women who run. And regardless of the question, the answer is elect more women. How do we make sure that a C-section is not a pre-existing condition? Elect more women. How do we make sure that sexual assault is not a pre-existing condition? Elect more women. How do we make sure that the people who are making a decision about maternity leave and contraception and abortion are the ones that know the most about it and are not a scene from The Handmaid's Tale? Elect more women. And how do we make sure that this version of healthcare never sees the light of day? We elect more women and we organize. So about 2 years ago, I launched off the sidelines with Senator Kirsten Gillibrand under the guise that everything is better if women are running it. And since then, we have over 2,000 women in Chicago and Cook County who are now actively engaged. And we have some sitting here, some future leaders. Ladies, stand up. So this is the future. And these are the organizers of our second Young Feminist Conference that will be on August 9th. And just in time for petitions to hit the streets, we are going to be joining with hundreds of other young women across Chicago, because the answer to the question is always elect more women. So now I have the great pleasure of someone who fulfilled that dream for us and is our current Cook County State's Attorney and an incredible advocate and good friend, Kim Foxx.
Good afternoon. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here. I have come to this luncheon and sat in the back hoping to meet Jan Schakowsky for many years. And when I finally got to sit down and speak to Jan Schakowsky when I was deciding to run for state's attorney, I cannot tell you how nervous I was. Here was a woman who was a fierce advocate on behalf of women, who, despite her small stature, her personality fills up this whole room. And I had to ask her if she would be willing to step out and support an unknown candidate like myself in a race that no one had paid attention to. And I will tell you that Ben Head was sitting next to her, and she had her eyes squinted at me, and she said, "Let me think about it." And within 2 days, I got the call from Jan herself, who said, "I believe in everything that you're about, and you have my full-throated support." So I went from being afraid to talk to her to having her dragging me around events and introducing me in only the way that Jan Schakowsky can. And I have to tell you that that support coming from a fearless woman like Jan emboldened me to always be fearless and fight on behalf of women everywhere, not because I am gracious, but because I have to. And that's what this is about. We must stand up with the same ferocity that Jan does down in Washington, D.C., on behalf of women everywhere, and say loudly and proudly that we are women. We control our destinies, we control our bodies, and I'll be damned if this administration does anything about it. And now more than ever, we need that voice, we need that spirit, we need that leadership. And as Bridget just said, we need more women stepping up, stepping out, and stepping to the podium to speak on behalf of the millions. So Jan, I personally want to say thank you for all that you've done for me and for the women and men in this room and the people of the United States. Thank you so much. And another fearless supporter and advocate on behalf of women, Commissioner Deborah Shore.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Shore, a member of the Board of Commissioners of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. What an honor to be among you. 25 years ago, I began volunteering to restore prairies and oak woods in the Cook County Forest Preserves. That work launched me on a path to public service because I cared about nature and it was being neglected. Then I heard about a candidate training program founded by Democratic women in Illinois called the Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership, IWIL. And I thought, I might run for office someday. So I approached my Congresswoman, Jan Schakowsky, whom I didn't know very well, and I asked her to sign my application. When candidates seek Jan's endorsement, she asks, is this somebody who wants to do something or somebody who wants to be something? Jan signed, IWIL trained me, and the rest is history. This is what Jan does. She nurtures women, she boosts us and pushes us and drafts a legion to transform the landscape in Illinois and beyond. We are all in her debt. Thank you, Jan. Thank all of you for your unstinting support. And don't forget to thank Mother Nature on Mother's Day. We owe her everything. And here she is, Jan Schakowsky.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Sit. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have a lot of work to do, so let's get started. I am so thrilled to be here. I always like to start with introducing some of our wonderful elected officials who are here. And I am so very, very proud to begin with someone who, normally we really don't necessarily populate this podium on this Ultimate Women's Power Lunch with men. But I will introduce the husband of the woman who started IWIL, the training program for women, our senator, our great Senator Dick Durbin.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The education of a United States Senator is a daunting task. And this week I learned several important things. First, I learned how to fix a broken heart. You start with health insurance you can count on. You get the best doctor, you get the best hospital, and you have a loving family stand beside you. And when the battle's on over making sure that everyone in America has that kind of health insurance that they can count on, and you want one person to stand up and fight for that right for every single American, you want Jan Schakowsky at the microphone. Time and again, in every important battle that I've been in, I've stood by Jan Schakowsky, and I've known that I have someone who will never back down and never quit on the important values that bring us all together today. She is a force of nature. And Gina McCarthy, thank you for coming here today on behalf of Mother Nature to remind us of what we all need to do for the next generation. Your service as head of the EPA proved that. My friends, thank you for being here for Jan. It is a great honor to be with you today.
Okay, I want to introduce a couple of my colleagues who are here today. Let me start with Sherry Bustow, our Congresswoman and my great friend from the 17th Congressional District. Thank you, Sherry. So far, the only downstate member of the House of Representatives from Illinois, but we're going to do something about that. We have Bill Foster here today from the 11th Congressional District. These are all my great friends. And we're so happy to have back here today as a congressman once again, Brad Schneider from the 10th Congressional District. Okay, thank you. Now, our Illinois statewide officials, the man who barely fit into the same picture as Gina McCarthy and I, our state treasurer who stands tall for Illinois, Mike Frericks. And every year, I'm so proud and happy to have with us Lisa Madigan, our great Attorney General, fighting for us. I do also want to welcome our former Governor, Pat Quinn, here today. Oh. I've already made a mistake. I wanted to go back and say how proud I am to have here today also a new member of Congress, Raja Krishnamurthy, US 8. Sorry, Raja, I love you. We also have a very important candidate that's here today, running for state senator from Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. No, I'm sorry, not my mistake. It says it there. She's running for governor. Come on, come on. She is a state senator. Okay. Now, I want to tell you, I was going to introduce a bunch of our state senators, but they were called into Springfield, and guess what they did today? They passed the automatic voter registration bill. Let them hear us from here. The House passed a version last year. It's going to go back to the House, though, this year, and hopefully it'll land on Governor Rauner's desk. We'll talk more about him later. I got a few words on that. Okay, so our Illinois state representatives, my great friend and mentor and majority leader in the House, Barbara Flynn Curry. Okay, you know what? Here's the other thing I forgot. We're going to do one clap starting now. One clap. Okay, representative from my district and our great representative Laura Fine. State Representative Robin Gable. State Representative Greg Harris. Linda Chapalavia. Teresa Ma. Elaine Neckritz, Christian Mitchell, Juliana Stratton, Art Turner. Okay, Cook County officials, Mike Carbonaggi, the Cook County Board of Review, Kim Fox, thank you, Kim, Bridget Gaynor, Josina Marita, David Orr, Tony Pruckwinkle, President of the Cook County Board, Deborah Shore, Metropolitan Water Reclamation, and from the City of Chicago officials, Alderman James Kappelman, Alderman Deborah Graham, Alderman Joe Moore, Alderman Michael Scott. Let's see if there were others. Okay. Okay. Other municipal officials around the state. We have from the Lake Forest City Council, Prue Beidler, Evanston Alderman Peter Braithwaite, Northfield Trustee Jane Goldberg, Highland Park City Council Alyssa Noble, Evanston Alderman Ann Rainey, Evanston Alderman Eleanor Revelle, Mayor of Highland Park Nancy Rodering, Mary Wynn Ryan, President of the Park District, Kim Stone, Highland Park City Council, and on her practically last day as Mayor of Evanston, Liz Tisdall, Don Wilson, Evanston Alderman, Melissa Wynn, Evanston Alderman, Cynthia Wolfson, Norwich Township Trustee. Okay, and from the judiciary, I'm going to run through these judges that I'm so proud and happy are here. Peggy Champus, Deborah Gubin, Shelvin Hall, Anjana Hansen, Nathaniel House, Bertina Lampkin, Mark Lopez, Mike Makoff, Pamela Meyerson, Leonard Murray, Latricia Payne, Jesse Reyes, Travis Richardson, Robin Schofer, Deborah Walker. Let's see what I've got left. Let's see. Okay, Democratic Party officials, people who I work with so closely. We have Eamon Kelly, Evanston Committeeman. We have Dean Maragos, New Trier Committeeman. William Marovitz, 9th District State Central Committee. Lauren Beth Gash, 10th District State Committeeman. And Carol Ronan, 48th Ward Committeeman and 9th District State Central Committee. And we have, did I forget? Oh, I didn't do the state reps. Where are they? Sarah, I'm sorry, where are they? Anna who? Okay.
Sarah Feigenholz and Anna Valencia.
Stay here. Okay, Anna Valencia, City Clerk. And Sarah Feigenholz, State Representative. We're going to talk about her later, too.
Anna Muller, the state rep.
And Anna Muller, State Rep. Let's do it again. And how do you say it? Okay, I'm not sure how to say her last name. I'm sorry. Northfield Township Trustee Shiva. I love her, but I can't pronounce her last name. All right, let's give them all a big round of applause. Thank you. You know, it takes a lot of guts to stand up and run for office, and I'm very proud of all of them. So I want also to acknowledge, or to let you know, let's see. Okay, I'm going to start right in with my statement that I work on for a long time to bring to you every year. And I like to start with my beloved sisters and secure brothers. I want to actually congratulate Donald Trump for the one huge accomplishment of his election. And that is that he has awakened a sleeping giant we call the resistance that is led by what he would call nasty women. So welcome to the resistance. How many of you were at the march in Washington? How many in Chicago? How many in any of the other cities? Okay. under the banner of women, which is perhaps the only umbrella that is really big enough for everyone, including our men partners and friends. Everyone showed up by the millions across the country and across the world. We showed up, not so much to unleash our anger, but rather to demonstrate our power. People brought to the marches all of their diverse identities and passions. We were old and we were young, including lots of kids. We're straight, gay, and trans, carrying signs like we saw, I hope, in the wonderful slideshow, covering every issue under the sun. The signs and messages were creative, and they were funny, and they were dead serious, and they were beautiful. And I understand that our pink pussy hats I understand, could be seen from satellites in space. I don't know if that's fake news or true, but I like it. What thrilled me most was that despite the multitude of issues that were represented, there was a complete sense of unity. That it was one movement, one unified thing. And I think I finally understood a millennial word. It's one of their favorite words. I can use it in a sentence. Intersectionality. We were scrunched together in a loving and peaceful crowd, but an army nonetheless, one determined never to retreat. And we will resist, persist, insist, and enlist. You ready? So as an organizer for most of my life, I've never seen a mobilization like this. Some of the pundits predicted that the march was a one-day event and enthusiasm would dwindle, but it's been the opposite. Every day, another organization. Every week, another big march. And every week, another victory. And so the lesson we are learning in this challenging environment is when we fight, we win. So the Republicans started off really on the wrong foot, trying to get rid of the House Ethics Committee, which, by the way, Peter Roskam from Illinois was leading the way on that. There was such an immediate and a fierce grassroots firestorm that they had to drop it like a hot potato. So when we fight, we win. For 7 years, Republicans promised and voted more than 60 times to repeal all or part of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, but never, ever offered a plan or sat down with Democrats to improve the law. They were comfortable in the certainty that President Obama would veto any repeal. But then they became like the dog that caught the bus. They had no real clue what to do. They wrote the bill that would take away health care from 24 million Americans, including over 750,000 here in Illinois alone, to give a $600 billion tax break to the wealthiest Americans. That's an average of $7 million per year to each of the 400 richest families. But for Americans between the ages of 50 and 64, Republicans added an age tax that could amount to as much as $13,000 in costs, more than what it cost for health care if you're in that age group under Obamacare. So it reminds me kind of one of the march signs I saw. Now you're really pissing off Grandma. On March 24th, minutes before they were to vote on this deadly bill, Speaker Ryan announced that there would be no vote. Now, why was that? It was because literally, put up my mic? Better? Okay, I feel like I'm getting feedback. Okay. So why did they withdraw their vote? Because literally millions of voters had protested directly to their members of Congress. They flooded offices with phone calls, emails, chased them around the block, showed up at town hall meetings and at their offices. And this outpouring more than matched what the Tea Party ever did in 2009 and 2010. And so by the time the vote was to occur, only 17% of Americans supported their bill. And that includes, obviously, if it's only 17%, the people who didn't support it were Democrats, Independents, Republicans, and plenty of Trump voters. What happened next? Trump demanded that they try again. And so, in order to get more votes in the House and among the Republicans, of course, they made it worse, slashing protections for people with pre-existing conditions. And this is the same Trump who said, nobody knew how complicated healthcare was. So we made buttons that said, we knew. Yeah, we know. So I know what you're thinking. Yesterday, it is true that the Republicans, with only 2 votes to spare, voted to pass that terrible bill. Understand, doctors, nurses, hospitals, the Cancer Society, all of the patient groups representing all the diseases that plague us, and even Blue Cross Blue Shield came out against this bill. It has almost no support. But as Nancy Pelosi warned as she looked at the Republicans, she said, quote, "You have every provision of this bill tattooed on your forehead, and you will glow in the dark," unquote. You know, in the Congress, and I think my colleagues will all agree, very few of the votes that we take are really matters of life and death. But this is one of them. And for the Republicans who voted for it, they are in grave risk of political suicide. I actually think we won the House yesterday. The calls have started already to the Senate and to those who voted for it in the House. We know their names, their phone numbers, their emails. In the case of Paul Ryan, I know his home address. I can share it. And all of you will know all of how to reach all and any of them, and we need to begin to do that. And so we and tens of millions of Americans who, like Jimmy Kimmel's infant son, and now our Senator Dick Durbin, have pre-existing conditions and simply need affordable, quality health care. We will persist. Are you ready? We will persist. Okay, on another topic, it was really grassroots pressure that got Bill O'Reilly fired from Fox News. Yeah, it was. You know, it's not that his viewership wasn't up, it was strong, but the pressure that was put on his advertisers was even stronger. And so, when we fight, we win. And winning begets winning. It is empowering. On Wednesday, the House passed a budget for the rest of this fiscal year to the end of September. The Washington Post headline declared that Trump got rolled in his first budget negotiation. No border wall or punishing of sanctuary cities like Chicago. No more money for the National Institutes of Health, which Trump wanted to cut. No cuts to Planned Parenthood. And Gina McCarthy, instead of a 31% cut to the EPA, a 1% cut and no layoffs. Barack Obama's cancer moonshot is generously funded, and Republicans were forced to withdraw more than 160 poison pill riders because when we fight, last week, the Illinois House passed HB 40, a bill to protect abortion rights in Illinois and allow poor women to access Medicaid-funded abortions. Now, I want to thank our sponsor, our chief sponsor in the House, Sarah Feigenholz. Where are you, Sarah? A big clap for Sarah. And all of the others here who voted for that bill and made it happen. I want to thank Terry Cosgrove and Personal PAC. And you have on your table something from Personal PAC to be able to make sure now that we contact the governor, et cetera. And so congratulations to our Illinois House of Representatives, Democrats. When we fight, we win. And now we look forward to its passage in the Illinois Senate. Now, incredibly, Governor Bruce Rauner has said he will veto HB 40, a total, complete flip-flop from what he had said over and over again. That he has said, and in fact wrote, that he absolutely would support all the provisions in HB 40. But we know what we have to do. We're going to have to fight back. And why? Because when we fight, we win. And if we don't do it now, well, we will do it now, but we're going to beat him in 2018. But first, we're going to get HB 40 on the books. But still, let's face it, there's been real pain that's been inflicted. And for me, one of the worst aspects of the Trump presidency is the way in which he has relentlessly turned Americans against one another, bullying and scapegoating and demonizing and shamelessly manipulating many of his supporters into believing that the problems that they legitimately face in their lives are caused by people who don't look like them or don't think like them. I met with a classroom of 7th graders at Boone School, a Chicago public school in Rogers Park. Half of them were foreign-born. Nearly all of their parents were immigrants, and many were profoundly scared, according to their teachers. Scared of being deported, scared of a parent being deported. A Jewish day school right near my office on Broadway was the target of a bomb threat. One of my wonderful staff members, Zara, was with her extended Pakistani Muslim family at an Albany Park restaurant not long ago, celebrating her aunt's birthday. And a woman approached their table shouting, "Go back where you came from. Get out of here." And the family was so upset that they got up and left, some in tears. There were kids there too. Now, the restaurant manager did eject the woman, but not one diner in the restaurant said or did anything. And so I want you to join me in pledging that if you see or hear bullying or hate speech, you will say something or do something. Are you with me on that? And I want to say, too, And God forbid they decide to do a Muslim registry in this country. We are all Muslims, and we will go register. So this is what Donald Trump has deliberately unleashed in our country. And one of his many blind spots is not seeing that our country is great because of, not in spite of, immigration. You know, Joe Biden got it right when he said immigrants are the best of the best. It takes enormous courage to leave everything you know, your family, your language, familiar surroundings, and venture out to a place unknown, driven only by a burning determination to do whatever it takes to make a better life for your family. My parents came as small children, and my mother's father made a secure living in Humboldt Park, selling vegetables up and down the alleys in a wagon pulled by Teddy, his horse. But that's really the typical immigrant story, not the exception. Immigrants have made America great again and again throughout our history. Raise your hand if your grandparents, parents, or you were born outside the United States of America. Look around. That's who we are. And that's who we are. This is what America looks like. And let's just take a moment to thank all the attorneys, including the ACLU and the so-called fake judges, who have put at least a temporary halt on the terrible Muslim and refugee executive orders. So here we are today, just passing the first 100 days of the Trump presidency. Seems a hell of a lot longer, doesn't it? But so far, every single thing that he has proposed has been a betrayal of the very working and middle-class Americans that Trump wooed with the cynical promise of making America great again. His budget proposal for 2018 would actually steal money from Meals on Wheels. His budget director, Mick Mulvaney, questioned the values of programs that he said sound good, like Meals on Wheels and school nutrition programs. He said that there is no evidence, that's a quote, no evidence, that feeding children at school help them learn better. I'm not kidding. You can Google it, Mick Mulvaney. And if Trump gets his way, gone are the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Museums and Library Services, the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities, Minority Business Development Agency, Global Climate Change Initiative, Emergency Refugee and Migration Assistance, the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, and about 4 dozen more agencies and programs that over the decades have made America great. And if he doesn't get his way, this is what he tweeted: "Our country needs a good shutdown in September to fix mess," unquote. But despite all this, I want to tell you, the story for me has been the inspiring power of the resistance. Our next really great opportunity is in 2018, when we can, and I believe will, take back the House of Representatives, elect more Democratic senators, and elect a new governor. So let me tell you the good news about 2018. First of all, Trump is really helping us big time with recruitment and fundraising and grassroots energy. I'm the national chair of candidate services for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and we have never before have had more people stepping up who want to be candidates. Quality and quantity is there, and they're stepping up to run. Now, we need a net of 25 seats for the majority. The House Republicans are helping us too by pushing a deeply unpopular agenda like what they did yesterday, but also attacking Social Security and Medicare and supporting school vouchers. How about that, Betsy DeVos? Defunding Planned Parenthood, and as I said, trying to repeal Obamacare. But they are between a rock and a hard place. The more they go along with this hard right program, the more it hurts them with swing voters. And if they break away, they have a problem with their base. So the Democrats have an expanded battlefield, including, but not limited to, 22 seats that Republicans hold that Hillary won, 10 seats that are now held by Republicans that Hillary lost by less than 4 points, open seats that we anticipate as Republicans join the administration, retire, or run for other office. We still have a good chance right now in Georgia with John Ossoff in that seat that's vacant. As of today, he's 1 point ahead. It's a tough district, but he's 1 point ahead. Trump got less than 55% of the vote in 95 districts across the country. So Democrats are active earlier than ever, making on-the-ground investments in local infrastructure. We have a full-time organizer in 20 congressional districts right now. Our social media and communication staff are pumping out information every single day. And then history is on our side. Since 1900, there are only 3 examples of the president's party gaining seats in the first midterm. Since 1982, presidents' parties have lost an average of 28 seats. Remember, we need 25. 28 seats. In all midterms over the last 23 years, the sitting president has needed a net positive job approval rating in the double digits in order to stave off losses. Well, Trump has the lowest approval rating for any newly elected president at this point in their administrations, in the low 40s. So now, my sisters and brothers, it is up to us. Wherever I go, including my grocery store and the gym, I'm constantly bombarded by the question, what can I do? And you know, there are as many answers as there are people. If your congressman is not on your side, it's pretty clear. You can call, email, show up at his office or a town hall meeting. You know how to put the pressure on. We've watched it on TV. We've seen it in our own state. If it's me and others who are on your side, I love to hear your personal stories about health care or other worries. Write them to me, and I can read them on the floor of the House or put them out on my Facebook. You can phone bank with us or even set up one in your home. We had 30 phone banks going in support of the state of HB 40. And it's not, we had a lot of people making those calls with a lot of others as well. It's not too soon to register voters. Support candidates with your volunteer time and or your money. Communicating, emailing, Facebook, Twitter, and letters to the editor. In local papers, members of Congress, all elected officials, don't like to see anything criticizing them in their local paper. Join an organization, create a group with friends. My office will meet with groups large and small. My political director, Ben Head, will do training or presentations, and I'll be there when I can. I firmly believe that what is happening outside the Congress is actually more important in shaping outcomes at this time than what's happening inside. Intensity really, really matters. Organizing really matters. Showing up makes a difference. And I want to leave you here today knowing and feeling your power I want you to feel as powerful as you really are, and to communicate that feeling to everyone you know who may be griping about what's going on but not really doing anything on it. Because we know that it is a proven fact that when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Right. We're winners. Thank you, everybody. So I want to also make sure that you give a great applause to my finance director, who is so amazing. Many of you have heard and received many emails from Sarah Gersten, and let's thank Sarah for putting this amazing, amazing event together. And now, as you all well know, I invited two speakers who are so wonderful to come here today. The first is Tamika Mallory, and I have bad news. Actually, worrisome news. Tamika's son had to be taken to the emergency room today. All of us moms and dads as well know how serious that is. She was on her way to the airport and had to turn back. I just dropped the card. I wanted to introduce you to two people who are here today. One who helped organize the Chicago. There it is. Okay, the Chicago March, and her name is. Was this the? Is it? Okay, Rilanani? Oh, Rinalini? Okay. And say your last name to me too. Okay. Merlanini Chakraborty. Okay, let's hear it for her. Okay? Actually, she helped Tamika. She helped Tamika with the Washington March. But we have with us also, who organized helped organize the Chicago March, Amanda Drench. So stand up, Amanda, and let's thank her. And I know there's a lot of you here, who also organized your own groups, who traveled to Washington, who made hats, who did an amazing, amazing job. I just want to say, I'm sorry, what? Somebody say something. I wanted to, this is what I was going to say about one of the things about Tamika as an organizer. It was an amazing, amazing accomplishment. And this is one that I can picture her now sitting with a grandchild or a great-grandchild on her lap, and she will tell them the story about when, way back in 2017, she organized the largest gathering of Americans in the history of our country. What an amazing, amazing thing. Well, as our very, very special guest today, we have with us Gina McCarthy, who was the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. And weren't we lucky to have her? So since the inauguration of Donald Trump as president, I have to tell you, Gina, I have received thousands and thousands of communications from constituents like Brian from Arlington Heights, who said, quote, "I write to you in desperation. It has come to my attention that legislation was introduced to terminate the Environmental Protection Agency, and as a graduate student in meteorology, I'm terrified at the direction the treatment of our environment is heading." So Gina McCarthy was confirmed as the 13th administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency in July July 28th of 2013. After the Republicans stalled as long as they could, her delayed approval became the longest period on record that the agency, and the time that the agency had to operate with an acting administrator. And while some Republicans regarded her as an environmental extremist, what we saw in Gina McCarthy was the leader who would deliver on President Obama's promise to take seriously the problems of climate change and take action. Gina was and is a breath of fresh air, literally, fresh air. She was unflappable and strong whenever she came before the committee I sit on, the Energy and Commerce Committee, despite the ridiculous grilling from the Republicans. Her Boston accented testimony warmed my heart, but not too much. We don't want too much heartwarming. That's not a good thing. But we came, I have to tell you, Gina, thank you. She came to dinner with the women of our committee where we shared stories, we gossiped about food and family and foolish climate change deniers. I just have to tell you one. We have actually a congressman who will be unnamed right now who said out loud in my committee not to worry that the earth will end in a flood because God promised Noah. So I took the occasion to say in a friendly way, a warning to my colleagues that everything they say is on the permanent public record. They might want to consider not embarrassing their grandchildren. Clearly, they have not learned. So the Democrats on the committee wanted to make sure that Gina, when she came, felt the appreciation that we felt for her in the midst of these relentless attacks. In September of 2015, 29 House Republicans introduced a resolution to impeach Gina McCarthy, which fortunately, yes, and that should be taken really as a sign of pride in a way, because she was doing her job to protect the environment. That's why they wanted to get rid of her. But that resolution died in committee. So thank goodness Gina lives, and she is here today to inform and inspire us to keep on fighting for a livable world. Gina McCarthy.
Wow. That was amazing. Listen, I have to tell you that this is one of the most exciting gatherings I have ever been invited to, with all of these powerful women and a few secure men. I'm excited by it. And our amazing host, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. She is the model for every woman who ever wanted to stand up and speak on behalf of other women. She is it. I am a Jan fan, and I am part of the resistance. Remember that. And if you're going to get rid of me, you got to come at me with more than an impeachment vote, because I'm not shutting up one way or another. Speak truth to power, baby. Speak truth to power. Listen, Senator Durbin, I have loved you my whole life, mostly after I met you, which is a good thing, right? He has been a tremendous ally and supporter. We've hung out at train stations trying to get the air clean, at water treatment facilities, making sure that things are working. It's been a wonderful collaboration, and I could not be more proud to have him representing all that's best in the United States and our core values. I have one more little shout out, although you're all filled with incredibly wonderful human beings. I know there's a table with a few of my peeps, my EPA staff. I want you to know that we support you. We love you. You're doing God's work. And I know it's hard, but don't you go anywhere. Don't you go anywhere. You stick it out. You know, it's really a wonderful time for us to gather together to think about how we have a safer, healthier, and a more equitable place to live. You know, I have 2 daughters and 1 son. They are my pride and joy. And in fact, I was at the Women's March in D.C. holding signs, screaming away, walking along with my older daughter Maggie and about a million of my closest women friends. It was truly amazing. So I do want to acknowledge and thank Tamika for making all of that possible. Boy, did it warm my heart. The day before was one of the worst days. That was equal to it because it was one of the best. You know, that march was the first time in years that I was able to wander around the streets in D.C. without my agents protecting me and without handlers telling me where I had to be. My husband was having heart palpitations, thinking it would be the first episode of Gina Unleashed series on Fox News. I thought it was the best, and the best part of it were the signs, weren't they? They were incredible. You know, my favorite one was on a white poster board, and it said something very simple, and forgive me for being crude, but such as it is. It said, "I can't believe we still have to fight for this shit." I mean, seriously. It's unbelievable. You've got Congress bringing up a bill to give women equal pay for equal work, and when it feels those men who voted against it are still walking the halls of Congress, you have no right. You have no right. And how about that picture from the Oval Office during the earlier Affordable Care Act debate that showed a bunch of men sitting around deciding about women's access to contraception? Are you kidding me? Do you think the name Viagra ever came up in that conversation? Don't get me wrong now. Don't get me wrong. We have come a long way, baby. I can remember when I was first in the workforce about 37 years ago. As a young professional, I was out in the field. I was doing great work like overseeing sewer systems and septic systems. But I was hanging out in the woods with these guys, and I was so happy that I wore my steel-toed boots because it was a great equalizer. But what I did not expect is that I should keep those boots around another 30 years so I could lend them to women journalists at Fox News. Ladies, take off those Jimmy Choos. All right. Well, listen, we cannot let the road ahead get us down. We have to look at today as our opportunity. We are going to cross that finish line. We are going to make our voices hard and strong and firm, and we are going to get women elected, including a president of the United States. I've had it. Look. We have big shoes to fill. With Lake Michigan just a block or so away, let's remember we have serious issues that we need to tend, and we cannot dwell. We have to move forward. By the way, did you know that dozens of women served as lighthouse keepers around the Great Lakes from the mid-1850s to the early 1900s? Those were women. In fact, Michigan had more lighthouse keepers than any other state in the nation. This is interesting because these women were literally lighting the way for others, just like we have to do. They saved lives. They braved terrific weather. They birthed children in the lighthouses. I don't recommend that, but they did it. They dutifully climbed hundreds of stairs every day, multiple times, so that ships could find their way to safe passage. Oh, the good old days when lighthouses were manned, right? Those women keepers usually got their jobs because their husbands died on the job. Not the best succession plan, I'll give you. Women didn't get official uniforms or government portraits like their male counterparts, but guess what they did get? They got equal pay. If we could do that 150 years ago, what's the matter with us today? Oh, well, maybe we need this story to remind us that we do have big shoes to fill. We have work to do. And while I know that many of you are worried about what's going on in D.C., as am I, we need to stop fretting and we need to start acting. We have children to protect. We have natural resources like the Great Lakes that need to be restored and they need to be sustained. The Great Lakes are not something to divest ourselves of. They are the engine of this economy. We need to get there and make it clean. Well, the good news is here in Chicago, we have Jan. She has been a consistent fighter for our environment. As a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, every time I was getting slammed over on that side, I was looking at her face because she had my back. She worked tirelessly to defend the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, to reduce mercury pollution because she knew it mattered to kids and it mattered to women of childbearing years. She worked hard to strengthen the standards that protect our children against asthma, which is way too prevalent, and in Hispanic communities, twice as prevalent as the national average. We cannot tolerate that. And she knew that the environment wasn't a partisan issue. For crying out loud, it's been bipartisan to protect our environment for the past 45 years. What's the matter with us now? Just because we say climate change, it's now a religion against actually doing what we need to do to protect our kids' future? What is that? What happened? We cannot deal with pollution by thinking that it's partisan in nature. Everybody's lungs need to be protected. Everybody's water. In your very own Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Commissioner Deborah Shaw, who you heard from earlier, served as the principal advocate for an ordinance establishing a pharmaceutical take-back program by Cook County. She's awesome. You know why that matters? Because those pharmaceuticals make their way into the water that we drink, in the place our kids swim, and they make their way into the fish that we eat. We cannot tolerate it any longer. But folks, it's not just the Great Lakes at stake today. It's all the progress we've made over the past 45 years on clean air, clean water, and a safe and healthy land. And most importantly, it's about the issue of climate change. Folks, climate change isn't about polar bears. It's about our children's health. It's about the safety of our community, and it's about our future on this planet. We need to get serious just like we did the past 8 years, and we need to continue to demand action moving forward. I'm a public health person. I'm not a polar bear lover, although they're cute. I don't hang around with any. I hang around with my kids. That's why I work at the Environmental Protection Agency, because all it does is to protect your health and protect the natural resources that you need to keep yourself healthy. How could that be the first swamp that needs to be drained? But let me assure you, folks, I know it's difficult in D.C., but that does not mean that all is lost. I have been engaged in the issues like climate change for decades, and guess what? The issues and the actions didn't start at the federal level on climate change till 8 years ago. That was not the first time we took action on climate, because guess what? Most good things happen at the local and state level. I've worked there, I know it. That's where you will make a difference. They are the laboratories of innovation. They're where we need to crank out and make our voices heard, because guess what? That's what we did in the 60s when we started this grassroots movement, and it's what we need to do today. You can't sit around and moan about what isn't happening at the federal level. You need to take care of business at the local and state level. That's how it always works, even though Senator Durbin and Jan, you know, we do the best we can, but usually it's after the local communities have yelled enough at the states, and the states yell enough at the federal government, then the federal government has brilliant ideas. Right? So we need to keep our eyes open. There's a couple of bills that floating around on the Hill. Actually, there's many. I'm going to mention two, only because they worry me the most, because they could go under the radar screen. There are two bills whose sole purpose is to defeat science, to get it out of the way so we don't have to deal with it. The first one, under the guise of transparency, is to get rid of our ability at EPA. I keep saying because I'm having trouble with the divorce. One of them is about taking all of the best science we have that underpins our programs, like our soot and our smog standards, and make sure that we can't use them because they were done by such nefarious organizations as Harvard University and the American Cancer Society. They've decided that we shouldn't have those available to us, and they're trying to make them unavailable so they can undermine the very protections that allow you to sleep at night and your kids to breathe during the day. Another is trying to revamp the Science Advisory Board so that instead of having qualified actual scientists on those peer review panels, we're instead going to allow more industry people, even those who have a direct financial interest in the outcome of the issue at hand. They're going to preclude us from getting to actually work with universities and research centers that we need to get real data on the table and real science. We cannot leave these little bills that nobody pays attention to go under the radar screen. We need to fight, folks. Look at the big things and look at the little things, and I know that a lot's going on, but don't let science be undermined. That's what brings you the protections you need. And the other big effort that's underway, obviously, was the President's 2018 budget, not the one that, thankfully, we were protected under, and I want to thank everybody on the Hill for making that happen. But I worry dearly about what's going to happen in 2018, because the numbers in those proposed budgets speak more loudly than any words that tell us that science has no place in the Trump administration. For example, we have EPA, whose budget could be cut by a third. It reduces state grants by 45%. It eliminates more than 50 programs, guess what? Including all those pesky geographic programs like the Great Lakes Initiative. These are programs that have tremendous bipartisan support. And EPA's science office itself would be slashed by a half. I mean, who's kidding who? This is the United States of America. We don't run from science, we embrace it. We innovate, we create jobs, we improve ourselves with this type of science. And to rub salt in the wounds, the night before the climate march, we saw EPA decide that they needed to totally revamp all the climate science and information on EPA's webpage. Now, if that wasn't a poke your finger in the eye, that I don't know what was, but I'll tell you folks, don't poke a tiger in the eye, because it only makes them madder. And we are going to get that information up, and we are going to do what we have to do to pay attention. But I will tell you, let me just say a few more things, because I know that you've been following the president's executive orders. I call one the chutes and ladders approach, which is basically every time you do a rule, you got to take a couple away. What kind of game is that? I mean, seriously. But I want you to understand one thing and one thing only. I want you to know that an executive order does not trump a final rule. period. Executive orders say what I want to do, not what you can do. Not what you can do. So you need to understand that as much as it's, ooh, isn't it awful? You know, honestly, we've lost very little so far, and it's up to us to stand up now and talk about our core values, what we believe in, with the importance of clean air, clean water, safe places, and a healthy, stable planet. If we can do that, we will win. There is nothing we have lost that we will not get back again. You know, if you're worried that the climate is just doomed to failure because we have this administration, let me tell you a couple of things. President Obama did a great job in making progress on clean energy over 8 years. The market itself is continuing that progress. The clean energy train has left the station, and there is no way that this president or any executive order is going to make that train turn back. This is the first time I've loved this phrase. It's the economy, stupid. The cost of wind and solar has gone down so much that they're actually competing against fossil throughout the country. We have more jobs in the clean energy industry and energy efficiency than we have ever had in fossil. It's amazing what is going on. That's our future. So women in Chicago, all is not lost. You have great leadership here in this room, but that leadership needs all of our support. And we have to, as my dad always said to me, you need to do two things. Fight the good fight and pull up your big boy pants and get moving, right? We have to stop the attacks. We have to stop the attackers. We have to band together so our voices are heard as women, as mothers, as grandmothers, as bread bakers and as breadwinners. All of us need to have the courage to light the path forward, just as those light keepers did so many years ago. And when we do succeed in lighting the way, and we will, can we please make sure that equal pay for equal work is part of it? Thank you.
Oh my God, is she a pistol or what? Whoa. Whoa. Fabulous. Fabulous. Oh, wow. Scott Pruitt, oh no. Oh, Gina, thank you. Thank you. Really, really inspired us. I just have a few more announcements. I want to make sure that you're looking at the things that are on your table. There is a wonderful movie about a great friend of mine and an incredible organizer, Heather Booth. I hope you can join us. Yeah. This is the tell Governor Rauner to sign HB 40. Make sure you do it. He needs to hear from all of us. And this green card, we had a real scare, and we don't want to take anything for granted, that the Chicago Region 5 Environmental Protection Agency office, they were talking about consolidating it with an office in Kansas, taking it off the Great Lakes and putting it there, and also the elimination in his budget of the Great Lakes initiative. We want to make sure that we stop that. But I want to thank Local 704 that's here from the Environmental Protection Agency, the workers that go to work every day to keep us safer, breathing clean air. I want to just mention a couple of people who were just newly elected, and Gina's right, local elections really matter. We had, what we see now is the right wing running for things like school board and library board and trustees. And so it's very important that we support our local candidates too. We have a new and amazing organizer that won as Evanston Alderman, Cicely Fleming and Robin Rue, two fantastic young women. Our new mayor of Evanston to be sworn in on Monday is Steve Haggerty. And the Maine Township School Board, Aurora Abella Austriaco, great friend, Aurora of mine. And you know what? Who else I want to thank? And I want everyone to give a round of applause to Hillary Rodham Clinton. To Hillary Rodham Clinton. I know that many of you worked your hearts out for her. Look what we have now. And she certainly worked her heart out for us, and we have to be grateful for the progress she made in smashing that glass ceiling. So I just want to end with I can't even express well my gratitude to all of you. We are in this fight together. You are powerful. Together, we are powerful. And when we fight, we win. Thank you, everybody, for coming.